All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're coming in from. How you doing? I am Mike Shorr, and I'm here with my very good friend, Mr. Charles Moon, stock trader extraordinaire, and we are filling in for our other good friend, our CEO, Scott Bauer. Happy Friday, everybody. How you doing? So we are pretty slow day. I mean, we are up. The Qs are up about 1.75%. SPY up about 120%. And just a very slow day. We're going into a 3-day weekend, so enjoy your long weekend. And just very slow. We do have expiration, and the SPY does have 600 in its sights. I don't know if they're going to make a run for that and try and settle above there today, but other than that, I mean, just a very slow, methodical day. We opened up, we came off a little bit, and then they've ground it back up. We're almost at session highs, just a little bit below that, just kind of toggling around here as we go into the lunch hour of the East Coast. Let's see. What else do we got? The economic calendar next week looks really light, actually. I was just taking a look at that. But we do have a new administration coming in. And depending on what they do in their first couple of days, that could put a little bit of excitement into the markets. Other than that, I think it's just kind of traded as usual, buy these dips until we, economic numbers have been good across the board. Getting, employment still staying nice and firm, but we're getting production numbers that are even outpacing that, and inflation is continuing to trend down. So a slow green light, it looks like. What do you think, Fred, Charlie?
Yeah, steady as it goes. We've been since the start of the year dealing with these really big extremes, right? Sliding down through the 50, recovering back above, and that $600 level, that threshold in the SPY is pretty significant. You can see they're building up a wall there at 599 right now.
Yep.
So what's going to happen, Mike? What do you think? Are we going to finish off strong, or are we going to see that dump into the long weekend here?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like they got their dump out early. I mean,
Yeah.
now we're seeing every sort of pullback get scooped, and now it's just grind. I mean, it was a little bit more volatile earlier, and now it's just grind and hold and then up. So I don't know if it's I don't think it's going to be a straight line up to 600, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if SPY got settled above 600 today, just the way that things are working now, with no numbers coming out for the rest of the day. We got some CFTC reports that shouldn't affect the stock market too much. So really, that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's no slowdown, and again, zero DT day. What does Tesla do? Once again, just gets bought up, bought up, bought up. It's like traders that didn't have the ability of really trading Tesla actively early in the week. They're the most active participants on Thursdays and Fridays. But folks, today we want to do a rapid fire session. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, especially with the new administration coming in on Monday. So folks, do me a favor in the chat, throw out some tickers Mike and I can cover. If you want one of us directly, just leave one of our names next to that ticker. And as well, we're going to get this early. If you're here, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it, folks.
Certainly would. We got Boeing and Game and Beto out there.
We got Boeing, GME. Yeah, we got some pretty quality names. Here, Mike, let me start with the first one on Boeing. I'll pull up my chart here. So Boeing, pretty interesting. This is one of the names that I really like for a recovery. Nothing has changed with the stock. It is very news dependent, but performance, and more importantly, the demand has, it's not really waned, but the fact that they're above the 200-day moving average, that they've collectively held this level going on for the last month, is starting to give signs that investors are starting to come back into the stock. It's really important and imperative, in my opinion, that Boeing starts holding their most recent swing low at around 164 and 3/4. We really want to see that push and recovery above the shorter dated moving average, that 20 SMA. That really opens up the ability for them to start to rise and test that 182. And of course, when buyers start seeing the stock perform well, that's when they're going to start really piling in. If I condense the chart a little bit more, we could actually see that once it clears that level, there is some really, really big upside, and that's that push to that 200 level. And that's kind of for me that barometer of investor success and demand continuing versus short sellers trying to pile and pound the stock down lower. So, Boeing is a interesting prospect if they can remain here above 168 and let's say 168.25, and if they falter below that level, that 164 half.
Yep.
Mike, do you want to take GME or do you want me to take that?
I could take GMA.
Yeah, we could bounce back and forth here.
Yeah, you could just leave yours up there. Our charts aren't too dissimilar. All right, so game was in a nice uptrend, trending up from basically $20 that would have been back in early November, and then up to about 34.5, and then over the last 4 or 5 this week, it's actually blasted down through its 50-day and taking out that swing low down at 27.13 or 27.30 or so. It's not looking good. You still have the ATR below you, but I wouldn't give a green light to a long in GME until you got above that 50-day simple moving average at 28.82 is where I have it. We need to see some sort of recovery, and if anything, you'd be looking for. You wouldn't be looking for a swing breakout to the downside because the ATR is still below. So for me right now, it's a. I mean, if you want to try and buy a dip in this is a tough little stock. You can. There's obviously sometimes you get the pylon to the upside, but it looks like most of the steam is out of this one, especially from early in the week when it went from about 31.5 all the way down to 27.5. So it's a no-go for me until we get above that 50-day moving average of 28.82.
100%. 100%. All right. Let's see here. Robert, what up, Robert? Asking about BITO. Well, Bitcoin is now above, at least BITO is above the 50 SMA. Nice and really strong recovery. BITO Golden Cross as well. Not a surprise that crypto is trying to lift off. Obviously, this is very specific, in my opinion, to Trump taking office. He ran on the campaign that he's pro-crypto. We'll see what actually happens. He's obviously appointed some cabinet members like David Sachs, for example, that's going to be in charge of crypto and AI. That's, in the first 30 days, we'll see how important it's really going to be. I really do believe that there is a chance that Bitcoin can rally strong and stack up. It's just going to be dependent on what he has to say, especially from his inauguration day and on. But right now, BITO working up here, linear regression channel on the hourly chart may offer a little bit of a slowdown at 26.25, but if it pushes beyond where we really just have no obstruction, no point of resistance until that 90-ish price. Yep. And there's a lot of there's been a lot of consolidation, congestion here, back and forth. Previous support levels, previous resistance levels. So it may take another pop and really just an anchor above $30 for this asset to get going here. But there's certainly a case to be said to be watching crypto assets leading into Trump's inauguration here.
Yeah. If anything else, you have to think that they're at least as friendly, if not more friendly, to crypto than the current administration. At
100%.
least from what they're saying.
100%.
So, if you have that behind you and you have everybody, from your dental hygienist to your local postman, is asking you about crypto, that could be bullish, and it could also be the sign that things are maybe a little bit bubbly here, but
Like when your mom asks you about
yeah,
crypto.
exactly. Yeah. Um, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see a run up and then sell it to them to buy it back. I mean, I'm still bullish on it. I'm not going to reach for it though, just because it made new highs, which is what a lot of retail traders will tend to do. So you're looking for a pullback there, probably 24.32, which is almost a little bit below yesterday's close, but we gapped up today. And then Bitcoin itself is what, 104.75, 104.875 right now. So a little bit below the 105 mark. So like I said, it becomes a little bit of a chess game here with getting people in and then selling it to them and then buying it back from them when they puke it. So we could see a little bit of volatility here, but still with a bullish tone there. I'm not shorting it.
Mike, Affirm is next. That one's
Sure.
for you from Clive.
Sure. Affirm. That one's a little bit tougher. It was in a really nice, solid bullish pattern from, again, early November, putting in highs up at around 73, just north of that. Now we're trading back down at 78 and three quarters, or 58 and three quarters, excuse me. We're below the 50, we're below the 20. So once we lost that 20, then the 50 comes into play. Now we're stuck between the 100 and 50-day moving averages. I'm not exactly sure why it's coming off. I mean, consumer spending is still relatively robust with those numbers from yesterday. It's just kind of a holding pattern. Again, it's a no-go for me until we get north of that 50-day. You got support there just above. You got a swing low at 52.65, and then the 100-day right below that. That'll be your support level. But right now it looks like it's in a bit of a holding pattern.
Yeah, a lot of suppression on the hourly chart at the 200 EMA. You could see they began knocked back. There's a case to be said about like the financial industry, right? Because Trump is a little bit more relaxed on regulations. So there's thoughts that the banks are going to get a big boost, and usually when the banks go, credit card, FinTwit, FinTech type of companies move. Four was a big mover today, which is a payment processor. SQ started waking up a little bit, but I'm with Mike. Until it breaks that 50 in that trend line, it's just a really tough buy here. If anything, it's a tough short as well, but it's coiling for something.
It certainly is. We got what, inside bar, inside bar.
Try to figure out which way it wants to go.
Which way it wants to go. Or if
all right, let's see. I have AMD from Aubrey. Now, AMD, I'm actually a bit disappointed at how AMD has started the calendar year. It looked like it was ready to just go off. Buyers were piling in. You can see where my yellow arrow is. And sure enough, what do? They made new 52-week lows. They're struggling to get it past the short-term moving averages. There is some signs of life in the stock. And, frankly, if they can close above 121 3/4 and anchor and hold there, there's a nice ability for them to race up to 131. But it's the same thing until we start really recovering above these levels. And you don't want a stock to just slowly pop and then drop immediately. You want that momentum, that upside momentum when it goes up, especially in a heavily depressed name like this. This is just in a significant downtrend. There's got to be a reason to shake the short sellers out, right? Otherwise, they're just going to constantly regurgitate and reposition themselves, whether it's at a lower end price or on the effective breakout and looking for the key levels, such as like the 50 to fade the stock back from. So let's just say above 132 is a good start for AMD, but really the true depth of, for me, any sustained demand for this stock to recover in 2025 has to be above this 200-day moving average. So for now, we're looking for them in the short term to get up and hold above 122, look to push towards that 135, 131 half, 132 level. And if they could kind of close and open above, and find that immediate support, then we may actually start seeing the signs that the investors and Wall Street alike is pounding back into this name. But
Yeah.
quite disappointing to say the least to start 2025.
Yeah, especially on a day when we're up, the Qs are up and almost 2%, and the semiconductors are leading the way. And then AMD got above its 20 and immediately failed on a day when, basically they opened the door for them to go and they didn't. That's telling. On a down day, if it kind of holds in this pattern, well, you can say, well, it was a down day,
Right.
and the semis struggled, but that's not the case here. So it
Yeah,
almost
I
was
mean,
like
great
sell
play,
AMD
Mike.
to buy Nvidia or TSM or something like that. That there's always going to be one that they pile on to that they have to finance these buys with. So it looks like they've picked other names.
All right, so I've gotten a lot of the tickers down. Before we move on, folks, let's get this out of the way. Today's word of the day is going to be chop, 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 just like what the current market conditions are. So, folks, if you want your name on the wheel, do me a favor, type in chop into that chat. And again, if you like the content that you're hearing, make sure you give us a thumbs up, click on the like button, whatever service you're watching from, whether it's X or YouTube or Meta or whatever. There's a like button. All we ask is that you press up on that. Mike, next up is going to be Uber. Uber for you.
All right. Let's see what we got here in Uber.
So let's see.
All right. Again, so a nice recovery off the lows. They put in the lows at 59.33. We rallied up here. We're trading 68.09. But again, on a day like today, where we're up 2% and Uber is down 71 bips, yesterday it tried to make a run for its 200-day moving average, came about 50, 60 cents short of it, and then we've come down from there. So it looks like it just doesn't have, the only thing going for it is that the ATR 2 days ago did flip from bearish to bullish, but again, I don't think that you can do really much of anything until you get above that 200, and then you got the 100 sitting right above there. So the 200 is at 70.13, and then the 100 is at 71.15, which has been kind of a, going back to mid-November where we were just kind of stuck between 69 and 75. We got to clear that stuff right now. It's just kind of, and again, on a day where we're up 2% and you're down 70 bips, that's not great. What happens when and if the market turns to the downside? It's already showing weakness in an up market. You got to think that it's going to be even weaker in a down market.
Very much so. Very much so. I guess if it does pull back, the telling kind of price will be right at 67s, where that 50 SMA is. Small baby gap as well, but you are 100% right, Mike. The performance on a day like today is very, very telling. They look at how they failed immediately at yesterday's highs. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Palantir is the next one, folks. Palantir, it's we got a signal on in the room. It's doing exactly what I had hoped. Held onto that 50 SMA, extending beyond. So we're now seeing higher highs on back-to-back days. We're starting to see the moving averages fan out. And, there's a little bit of room to the 20 SMA. That's going to be really the very kind of, I don't want to say make or break for the stock, but when stocks that are extremely strong and have been outperforming, I mean, you could see how Palantir for months remained above this 20 SMA without, a little risk off going into earnings. I mean, we're talking about dating back from September, they've been able to maintain above this threshold. Now they've fallen under, they collapsed so far, they dropped below the 50. So they're in a state of recovery, but the recovery could easily get faded off from this 20 SMA. It's imperative that we get above that level. We should be testing 79 to 80, which is these old highs here. And anything beyond that, obviously, is a revisit back to the highs. Fairly optimistic. Performance is good. So far, everything is looking like it should. It's up on a day like today, performing well at 4%. So far, so good. Just be aware of that 74 price, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, because look at how that 20 held support that whole way up. In early December, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and then we lost it. So you got to think that 74 in the short term is going to be your inflection point. But if you get a move from 72 to 74, or where you guys got in yesterday at 69 up to 74, that's a nice little move for less than a week.
We're trying. Yep. Next up is AVGO, Mike. AVGO here.
I heard that was making a little run today. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I mean, we did get the recovery. This is one of those that is really hard because in something like this, you're asking a lot. We bounced off of. We almost flipped the ATR, but we didn't. And now we're just back in that trading range between 250 and 220, and we're right in the middle of that right now. So it's certainly, all the moving averages are still upward sloping, so it's still bullish. But I think that you're asking a lot for it to go to make new highs when just yesterday the Qs were below its 50-day moving average, and the SPY just got back above its 50-day moving average today. So you have one that really rocketed up after last earnings that is probably it is outpacing the rest of the market. And so, that's probably not the one in the absence of any sort of new news or anything like that. Looks like you're probably range bound. And then, earnings aren't coming up for a while. They're not till March something. But yeah, you're just right in the middle of back into that consolidation range.
Yeah, it's going to need some pretty aggressive buying. I think it's going to come in possibly above 240 as the stock is now starting to break these short term, like lower spike high levels. It's outpacing their short term moving averages. They have respectfully have outperformed names like Nvidia. And I guess one of the shining moments for the stock is that after it made its kind of parabolic explosion, it didn't completely collapse and just come all the way down to fill that gap before it started moving back up. So there is a case possibly, obviously, with the markets lifting up. We have seen some really early aggressive bullish buying getting faded off. It happened earlier today, but it picked itself up pretty nicely. And again, same thing, starting to fan out a bit. So I think above 240, we could see it spark up a little bit.
Yep.
It's going to take, I don't want to say the hand of God, but it's going to take a lot for it to power through this level. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of the max target zone, right?
250, 251.88, right?
Yeah.
That was that spike high. And that's what I mean. You're asking a lot, and really until you have some stuff to work through here, and then you have then you have to go and ask it to make 52-week highs $10 after that in a $250 stock is not great.
Let's move on. Let's see here. Nvidia. Now, I guess I'll take this one. Nvidia, talk about Jekyll and Hyde trading in recent weeks. They started the year off making new 52-week highs. They collapsed almost back down to that December low, and they're now in that state of recovery. So it's very similar to how the Qs have traded, with the exception of the all-time high here. But Nvidia is powering up today. I'm not so sure that this 50 SMA is going to be a very key resistance level. I mean, we rejected sharply off of that level the other day. That's where it sent it down. The ATR is still blue, so it's trying to guide it higher. A little suppression on the linear regression mean, but above 140, the stock has really good upside. I know that Nvidia popped up on the bullish burst scanner for the AI room, so I'd say above this 140, 141 price, there's the ability for the stock to move 145 to 150. I don't know if it's going to break the all-time highs, anytime soon, but they could at least try and make a run for it above this 140 price, especially if they could close and open above that 50. That's a really key barometer. You've heard me and Mike talk about it a lot. When stocks are underperforming through this threshold, especially with the markets being drawn down below this level and seeing us now recovering back, we need these stocks to mirror and follow the leader, right? The Pied Piper, which is the broad market. So I would say right now it'd be really tough to kind of take on any new trade in Nvidia. But if it gets above 140 and anchors, there's a really good possibility that they're going to try and pump for that 150 price.
Yep.
What about you, Mike? What do you think?
100%. I mean, that 50's got to be key. Before this big drop, look at how many times it got there and rejected. It looks like 10. I'm not going to count them all, but and it's kind of interesting. Nvidia's been, the huge leader over, the last whatever year and a half, 2 years, and if you looked at it, you would, I wouldn't think that looked like an Nvidia chart given where SPY and Qs are. That Nvidia's below its 50-day moving average. Of course, it way outperformed the market last year, so it's not all that surprising that you're seeing some profit taking here earlier in the year. But yeah, above that 50, so 50's at 39.64. We gotta get and stay above that and hold and settle above that before I would even consider it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do one last one. Mike, this is for you. It's going to be PayPal. PayPal.
All right. Another one coming up on recent highs at, what is that, 93.66 or so.
Yep.
So again, now we do have a high correlation to Bitcoin here. And so everything that we said about Bitcoin with Beto, that certainly holds for PayPal, and Charlie was talking about Square earlier. But again, you're asking it, in a market that is, just, not quite rocketing, but, maybe a jet up here, and we're just off of recent highs. It's hard to take. I'm certainly not bearish. I mean, there's, everything in the world is telling you that it's bullish, but you're what, less than $1 away from these highs. You just can't take that long. There's PayPal's not good. Like, if you said right now, if I had to buy PayPal or Nvidia, I would buy Nvidia just because there's more room to the upside.
Mm-hmm.
And in here, not only are you asking it to get to new highs again, you're asking it to surpass new highs because we're $1 away from those. So it's outpacing. I'm not shorting it, but there's a difference between being bearish and not being bullish. So I'm bullish, but I just don't think that there's a whole lot left to squeeze out of that thing.
I agree. And, on top of that, even if it breaks, if you go back 3 years, these are long dated key resistance points. So just keep that in mind that, even if PayPal pushes 95.75, 99, 102, 103, these are all knockback zones as well. So something to be aware of. Really quickly, Bob, you talk about the 50, 100, 200. Those are SMAs. EMAs are better for shorter term time frames. Because of the weighted average, obviously kind of keying in on the more near-term trading sentiment, where the broader picture, the longer dated moving averages should always be the simple moving average. That's what Wall Street and retail traders like to reference. We're going to do the wheel here. Let me just copy and paste this link and throw this up here. All righty, folks. Let's see who is going to be our winner of the day. Mike, what do you think? We should do 2? Give Scott a headache here. Since there's 2 of us, we should pick 2 winners, right?
I think we should.
Okay, so let's start with winner number 1. Good luck, everybody. Let's see. It is going to be Ty Hoffman. Ty. Make sure you reach out to Prosper Swag at prospertrading.com. I am going to remove your name on this. And winner number 2 is going to be... it was almost Leaf. Alyssa Rader. All right. So Ty and Alyssa, please reach out. We will get your swag out shortly. And everybody, of course, we greatly appreciate you folks tuning in. We are going to wrap this up. I know that we missed some of these names, but do me a favor, reach out to us in our trading rooms. we'll be more than happy to break those down. Everybody, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Thanks for tuning in to Market Minds. The
Thank
great
you.
Scott Bauer will be back next week, but in the meantime, folks, we are out of here. Mike, thank you for everything.
Thank you, my
The
friend.
other Michael Clark, thank you for everything. Ladies and gentlemen, peace and love. And until next time.
Right on.